my biggest learning from agency is that building an emotional business is one that sustains economic cycles. I've been through like the growth of like startups and where interest rates were really low to now interest rates are a little bit higher. It's not like the highest it's ever been. But what I've seen sustain throughout is that if you have an emotional resonance with a business, it will survive the cycles. And you can also charge like exponential, you can get exponential gains from that because you can charge at a premium.
No Bullshit Talks is a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. There's too much bullshit out there, especially when it comes to business. This podcast aims to highlight what's true and what's not in the world of entrepreneurship, bringing you honest and raw conversations about the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship. Each week, my guest will be a high-performing entrepreneur sharing ups and downs of their journey and helping you prepare for the road ahead, while providing you with actionable insights and absolute gems of knowledge. Stay tuned as I introduce this week's guest. Jidé Maduako is a former professional footballer, playing for Leicester City Football Club, but now runs his own influencer agency. He's an expert in short-form content going viral frequently on TikTok. He's also a TEDx speaker, but has now launched his own AI and is taking his agency in a new direction. I present to you this week's guest, Jidé Maduako. So Jidé, welcome to No Bullshit Talks today.
Thank you very much.
I'm excited to bring you on because I think you've had a very interesting journey. One that's pretty unorthodox, I'd say. I feel like actually let's let you introduce yourself first because I feel like people won't know necessarily who you are. So let's have you introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm Jidé. On social media, I'm St. Jids. I'm the founder of Yoke Network, which is agency. We've been going for 7 years, and we're kind of in a transition period where we're moving the business to like new pastures. And I've done quite a bit. I did a TEDx talk, obviously. Yeah. Thank you. And I travel a lot. Make content, mentor younger people who are younger than me, and just try and give value to society, really.
But I think it's quite interesting how you've actually come from a totally different path. So you're doing that now, and we'll talk about influencer, your influencer agency and all that sort of stuff. And I know you don't like to call it an agency, so we'll also touch on that. But you were once a professional footballer. You actually were in the Premier League, right?
No, I wasn't in the Premier League, but I was in a setup. Like, so in terms of, I was in like the reserve team at Leicester.
But still, that was a Premier League team. You're in Leicester City Football Club. You're playing it down. But I mean, like, how many thousands and thousands and thousands of people out there try and get into academy, and how many tiny percent actually make it? And you made it, and you did that. It was crazy.
Yeah, so I got to the reserves, and I signed a pro, so I was there for a year, and it was like a interesting experience just because like I always wanted to kind of, as soon as I signed a pro contract, I was like, yes. I think that was where my biggest mistake, because I should have at least been thinking like, all right, now the hard work starts, not that I have made it, you know? So it was a good experience. Like obviously I was at Ipswich before, in the academy there, and then after going to Leicester was a good experience as well, because it was just like a kind of a very small city, but it was a more competitive club. And it was a good experience.
I think that's incredible what you just said and it's so eye-opening for a lot of things. Like you said, you saw that, like you've hit that goal, and you saw it's like, okay, great, I've done it now. I don't need to do anything. But you've just correctly realised that actually that's when the hard work starts, because if you don't, then you're not going to make the first team, and everyone else is going to overtake you. And I think that's the same with anything in life, and especially in business. People hit goals and milestones and they think, that's it, done. But actually, it's the opposite. You've got to keep working.
Yeah, I think there's a Frank Sinatra saying, which I heard from like LL Cool J on our podcast, but he says it's not how good you're doing, but it's how long you're doing good. And I think that just something that stuck with me in terms of, especially if you're gonna be in the public eye or be in front of people, or even if you're not and you're in an industry that is competitive, it's all about how you can consistently perform well, not just like one-off sporadic moments, which are good, and it's like it's good to have that, but it's like, just even if you're an investor, you don't invest in you invest in like a line that's like trending up. You don't just invest in like one stop points, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's crazy. I feel like you worked, you must have lived and breathed football for most of your life growing up. Like, how is it to have such a huge dream that you work for, like that is your sole purpose? Basically, you're doing it day in, day out. To get to that level, you have to be non-stop training. How is it to do that for one thing, get there, achieve it, and then realize, oh my God, this is not what I should be doing? And does it feel like that was a waste, or is it like that you feel like...
Well, it was something that I wanted to do. I just never got another contract, and then for me, it was kind of soul crushing because I felt like I was good enough. I felt like I was gonna work. I did work hard, but again, like in hindsight, you look back and you're like, well, maybe I could have focused more. Maybe I could have done other things. But football is a game of opinions, and so is a lot of things in life. So I just felt I got to a stage where I could have continued, and I wasn't. It wasn't like I was in a position that I wanted to be in, but I felt that there's a lot of players that go to like non-league, and after they play and they work their way back up, and I just felt that was too high risk for me, because I feel like I was blessed with things outside of football in terms of academically. Like, there was always pressure from my mum to do well, and I did perform well there, and I always had interest in like just business. But in that period in my life, it was like very soul crushing, and like it was like a deep loss of like my identity for a while. But at the end of the day, you're only given challenges that you can complete, you know, and it's like a blessing, because like the night is darkest before the dawn. So at the end of the day, you just got to kind of work through it, and that's what I ended up doing.
I mean, it must be I can't imagine, like, you know, working that many years for something and then it does get taken away from you, but you've obviously really bounced back. I mean, how prevalent is that in football? I feel like you mentioning also being in a public eye, like, as we're recording this, and it's going to come out obviously a few weeks later, but as we're recording this, we're in the middle of the Euros, right? And these guys are under so much scrutiny and pressure. Like, how much do you think that adds to what they're doing? Like, every kick of the ball is like being analysed by all the public, who none of us can play football anywhere near as well as them, and they're all criticising them. Like, how is that?
I think if you're playing at that level, the pressure is something that you should just be used to, because at the end of the day, anyone that plays football to a good enough level, or is in football, knows that it's a game of opinions. So they shouldn't worry about what anyone else is thinking, what anyone else is saying outside of their team and their dressing room, because at the end of the day, one thing I was always taught when I was playing was like, control the controllables. Like, you can only control what you're doing. You can only listen to your manager. You can only support your teammates. So I actually feel as though the personalities within the team, there's a lot of Champions League winners, there's a lot of Premier League winners, and psychologically, I think that they showed that yesterday, coming bouncing back and getting a win, that they're very their skin's very thick, and it doesn't matter about what everyone else's opinion is. It's about the collective and working with your team, and there's no pressure when you have the support of the people that you're playing with, you know.
You said now a couple of times that football is a game of opinions. What do you mean by that?
Because everyone looks at it from a different perspective, and people don't know. There's a lot of asymmetric information. So there's a lot of tactics that the coach might have said, and like I've even seen it when like there'll be a dressing room, and the coach will say, this is what we're doing. If anyone else says otherwise, then play into it, but we know that this is our game plan. And so you don't know what's being said in the dressing room. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And also, people have different styles. So, because it's such a big sport, it's a global sport, there's so many different styles and tastes. So people will give their opinion on something based on their own style or their own experience and stuff. So it's just a game of opinions, which it really is.
I guess that's why that All or Nothing series is really everyone loves it, because it's like the only time you actually get real insight into what happens in the dressing room, right?
Yeah.
But I think what you've just described is not just in football. I think it's in everything, right? And so like people have an opinion on everything, and we're seeing this in business at the moment, right? This podcast is for entrepreneurs. Most people tuning in are going to generally be entrepreneurs, and there is so much content online about how you should run a business, and people telling them their advice on what it is. And if someone does something different, they're like, no, but so-and-so says this. And whoever's built themselves up to be an authority figure kind of gets to dictate how things should be. So it seems to be like this is the case across everything. And, you guys are very much into influencer, in the influencer world. Like, how prevalent is this in what you do?
To be honest, it's part of the reason why I kind of don't like it. In terms of in terms of running an agency, in terms of speaking towards clients, because the way that we look at things is completely different. In terms of, we have our own data that we built up. We've got our formulas and hypotheses on how to execute content. And what happens is, as well, within a lot of businesses, is that you'll sell into like a CMO, and then the social media manager will have a different taste, but the CMO has like KPIs and objectives that they discuss with the CEO in terms of the direction that they want to take the business or the brand. But in terms of a platform like TikTok or Instagram, you need to optimize content that's going to work. So it's like a lot of it is too fragmented, which is why I don't like kind of doing the agency side, and why I'm moving away from it, just because I just think that it's a game of opinions, and the barrier to entry now for content is so low that anyone can kind of perceive to be an expert. So what happens is that price, the actual like business model of it, you're just kind of like fighting for lower margin, when I think if you're really good at it, then what you're going to do is you're going to go out and build a brand with the ideas that you have, or build products and build a community, which is why I'm focused on that.
I think a lot of people are now. So obviously I'm also in agency world, and I've migrated away from agency L to my own community. And it's like, I see a lot of people now doing that, because I think there's definitely a fundamental flaw with the way that agencies are run, and the lack of respect that the creative sector gets in general. Like you said, there's a massively low barrier to entry now, thanks to AI tools and thanks to all this other rise in technology, that so many people think they can create good content, but actually all they're doing is creating generic content that everyone else is doing. But to other people, it looks okay, and they're so hung up on vanity metrics, which again can be forged. So I think that there's this delusion with lots of people. Like you said, there's often a disjoint between the CMO and the social media team, and we have that as an agency all the time. Like, someone in the team will love what our work, and then they'll put it to someone else higher up and they don't like it, and agencies just get disrespected, and then they say, oh, actually, why are we paying this agency so much money? You just do it in-house half the price. And I think there's a problem. And
the thing about, I don't actually blame a lot of the businesses for that, in terms of like doing it in-house and hiring somebody, because the goal of a business is to profit maximize, and what you want to do, especially in this economic climate, is that you need to be as efficient with your capital as you possible. But for me, what it is that being on the receiving end of that, I feel like because I've operated a business for the past nearly 7 years now, I feel like, well, I can compete and I can build my own. And also what we kind of get caught up with a lot, especially with creator and influencer and stuff, is that there's actually like, that's just one distribution channel. There's actually so many distribution channels. So it's like, that's why I think businesses, like, sometimes if it doesn't work, they can rely on something like Facebook ads. They can rely on something like like newsletters that are like, even you can go back to leafleting, you know, like this stuff all kind of convert depending on the business. So it's just about, if there's something that you believe that you're an expert in, which I know I'm an expert in terms of short form content, kind of building communities and growing pages and things organically. I'm just doing that for myself. So that's how I feel.
Would you recommend that to other people as well? Because a question that I get asked a lot at the moment is, you know, how do I start an agency? Should I be starting an agency? And, you know, I've been running my agency for 11 years. It's a long time, right? And even before that, I was freelancing for another 5 years. And, you know, every day I think I should just be going back to doing it myself. And, you know, parts of me definitely regret starting an agency and wish that I, you know, did things differently. And I guess if I had to start all over again from scratch now, the question is, would you start an agency? What would you say to those out there who are in that position, who are not sure, or maybe they're running an agency but they're not sure whether to pack it in? Like, what would you think?
I think, yeah, you can start an agency. It's just in terms of what you're arbitraging, because that's what agency is. It's an arbitrage business, and it's like an asymmetric business where if you have more knowledge in one sector, then you can do it in a more efficient way. So I think that there's still massive opportunities for agencies. It just depends on what for, you know. I think for content creation, it's a race to the bottom in terms of like profits, because everyone is such a low barrier to entry. But then there's other sectors, like if you were to do like an AI agency where you're building models for business, then that's an opportunity. If you're to do even like other, like, you know, sectors of the market, and even you can even do an agency for like social media anyway, but in more traditional sectors that aren't as shiny, because like I know somebody who's like killing it helping doctors, you know, but what I think is the market, what I think and where the market is going now is that there's a lot of businesses that are being more efficient and they're smaller. So what's actually happening is that the bigger businesses are basically, because of AI and because of content, they're building out their walled garden and working very efficiently within that. But then outside of that, there's a lot of smaller businesses that are doing like 1 to 5 million a year, that don't have a massive team. They don't want to overhire. They're the ones that will leverage agencies. But the only thing about that is that isn't as consistent, because they're always looking for efficient ways. So I think that there's massive opportunities to start an agency, and I would say try it if you see an opportunity. But the business model of an agency is that you either grow it to add and bundle services to scale out, or you grow it to sell it into a more walled garden, and then by doing that, that's how you kind of like achieve what you want to achieve, and obviously get the profits from it. So that's what I would say.
So you're moving away from agency world that you said. So what are you focusing on now?
I'm focusing on building products that can have a cultural impact and that are around communities. The reason why is because I feel that my biggest learning from agency is that building an emotional business is one that sustains economic cycles, you know, and we've just been through, like, I've been through like the growth of like startups, and where interest rates are really low to now interest rates are a little bit higher. It's not like the highest it's ever been, but then also people are a lot more conservative with their cash, and businesses about efficiency. But what I've seen sustain throughout is that if you have an emotional resonance with a business, it will survive the cycles. And you can also charge like exponential, you can get exponential gains from that, because you can charge at a premium. But obviously every product always has to have value, but it's just it gives you a lot more of a barrier to entry and a sustainable business that you're running. So I seen it the other day. I think earlier in the year I because I've always loved Nike since I was a kid. I was doing some running in when I was on holiday, and then my trainers like snapped in half. Yeah. So, and these are like nearly like 300-pound running trainers and stuff. So I was fuming, but I was like, it's cool. I'm just gonna speak to Nike, go back. So when I got back to London, I was in the Nike store. I was like, yeah, like I need to get a refund anyway, or I need to at least get an exchange. And I had a lot more patience for them because I said to them like, look, it's not that I'm gonna wear Nike no matter what.
Yeah.
But like, just don't take the piss, no type of thing. But it's because you have that relationship with the brand. And I think what you're seeing a lot now is that building communities online, and then taking them out in person is something that is strong, because I think people are sick of being online and not getting a lot of value. They're sick of being served things that are inauthentic. There's a lack of trust with like the government, and like there's a lack of trust with like even actual traditional influencers, like people who appear to have a perfect life. But what you're seeing now is that everybody wants to connect. They want to feel, they want to be surrounded by people that are like-minded. And that's how you can actually be more powerful. So that combined with building products that combined with like creating content and building products is what I focus on.
Yeah, I mean, what you said about the brand loyalty there is so important, because that's it. Like Nike have an amazing brand loyalty. Like, you know, when you think of Nike, you think quality, you think high performance athletes, you think like, you don't think, oh, the trainers are going to snap in half. I mean, that's unheard of. And so when you think that, you're not going to go, oh, these people are crap, I'm never going to buy from them again. You're going to think that's an anomaly. Something went wrong there. And presumably they fixed it and they gave you...
Well, it was a bit long, but because there's... Yeah, I'm not going to expose them, but basically there's something in terms of the way that they communicate with their stores and their online. There's like a
disconnect.
Yeah, disconnect. So it got resolved.
Okay.
And again, you know, I love Nike. But at the same time, just for me, I feel like, yeah, creating content that's of value, helping and inspiring people. And I think now I'm at a stage in my life where I'm turning 30 this year, and I want to invest myself in my life's work. You know, I want to every single day be focused on something that is authentic to myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a low yield like on my ideas by just selling them through an agency.
Yeah.
I feel like you get a lot of creative freedom. You get a lot of you get to attract people that think like you by creating content. And the only sustainable way to create content is to obviously do it at a profit, you know, and do it in a business way, or else it's not gonna be sustainable. So that's why attaching a business to something that is truly of value to yourself and your core principles will mean that I'll never work a day in my life.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think there's a lot of people out there who would love to be a content creator full time. And I know that lots of people talk about it, but they don't realise how hard it is. I mean, we were just chatting before this about how hard it is for me to do all this camera stuff myself, and like things are going wrong, and you know, you had to give me a memory card. Like the things people don't talk about, those things that go wrong, but there's a lot to think about. And like you were just saying, you're just walking around with all this gear on you all the time. It's a mindset as well. Like I always talk about being in a content mindset. You can't just be free and in the moment as a content creator, I think. And I think it does take away a little bit of that. That's what I've noticed anyway. I feel like you're going about nah, but like I just think that I'm always thinking, oh, this will be great content, gotta go capture it, instead of just living in that moment. I think it's a lot harder than people think. So I'd love to just explore some of that, because, for example, this podcast, like I love doing this podcast. At the moment, it's not monetized. You know, at some point, I'm going to have to monetize it. The amount of time and effort that I spend in this and money that I actually invest in it can't just go unmonetized. Otherwise, I'm just going to go broke eventually and do that. So, you know, a lot of people are out there creating content, whether that's, you know, on TikTok, Instagram, whether it's blogs, or whether it's newsletters, whatever it is, YouTube. How does one go from just creating content for the sake of it and becoming a full-time paid content creator, like I said, value to yourself and your audience?
The first is to start like creating content around something that you actually love and you would do without getting paid for. Like, so you have to be able to make content around stuff that you genuinely love and you would do without getting paid for.
Because you said you'd never work a day in your life. That's what you meant, right?
Because being a content creator is literally starting a business, and it's hard. And when I say it's hard, I mean it's because there's so many different variables that go into it. But over time, if you work on each of these variables, it compounds to a way that it looks easy, you know? So I've always thought about making content, but I didn't for a while. And I started to make content about stuff that I actually do, like a lifestyle that I actually live, like in terms of I travel a lot. And I'm always outdoors, like doing something. Like I'm either trying to work for higher ups or do something related to fitness goals, or I'm like outdoors exploring. And I found that I love going to places that people haven't been to, such as like different parts of the world, you know, and actually feeling culture and like being around people. So I realized that this is the stuff that I've always kind of captured. But then after I realized that, I started to make more content about it. And because I actually was deeply cared about it, when you can hear that through the storytelling that I do. So that's like number one, find something that you love. Number two is, can you sweat? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
you can't give a fuck about what anyone thinks. Like that's the truth. Because actually being a content creator, the only time you actually get to a point where you can probably make the best content that you're capable of is when you don't really give a shit about anyone's opinion. Because when I first started making content, like people, a lot of my friends doubted me a lot. Like you feel kind of this shame as well because you're exposing yourself to like you're exposing your life. You also like it feels like a distraction as well because you have your core business, then you have your real life hobbies, but then you're making content and it's like what, like you have no followers, you're not speaking to anyone. But then that's why you need to actually do something that you love, because then you'll never feel shame in doing something that you love, you know, that you're immersed in. So that's number two. Like you shouldn't really give a shit about what anyone says, especially because as you start to gain an audience and you hit new audiences, you get a lot of like, well, not a lot, but you get negative comments and you get other people's opinions. So if you don't care about anyone's opinion, then it actually helps you, because when you see that negative comments, I actually like negative comments.
Really?
Yeah, because it means one of two things. It means one, that it's like my content's split opinion and it's actually driven emotion. And two, it means that the algorithm is pushing me to a new audience. So that means that there's an opportunity for me to grow and connect with more people.
Ah, that's a big reframe. I like that. I mean, I get that I get a lot of negativity, but I get that that's what it means. But I don't necessarily like it. It's still hard to take, I think, when you.
It depends on what people say, obviously, but two, also like negative comments are always going to happen, and it's like there's a song that Meek Mill has, and it's like if you ain't got haters, you ain't popping. So it's like it literally is like if you're doing something right, people are talking negatively about you, you know, because the game of content is it's also relevancy and like audience attracting attention, because you're technically, for part of content creation, there's an element of just like attracting attention. So with attention comes opinions, you know?
Yeah.
And then also with our content, the final thing, because the first two are like more or less psychological and mental, and then the last thing that you should focus on is the execution. Because if you do a step one, which is do something that you love, step two, which is not give a a piece about what anyone has to say, then when you actually get to the stage 3, which is actually making the content, it's a lot more easier because you're in a frame of mind and you have the time to actually do it well. And that's when with this part you have to work on like the audio, you have to work on the cameras that you're going to use. I'd say just start with a phone, and because iPhone is like at a stage where it's like unbelievable for what it can capture and it's also like the most cost effective. Then start researching different content styles. So look at some of your creators that inspire you in your category, also outside your category. Start looking at the content that resonates with you most, like what are they saying, what are they talking about, what's actually what are their best performing posts looking like. Then you obviously got to still like an artist and take inspiration and start to make content. Even if you're getting a couple hundred views, most people can't even talk in front of 20 people. So if you're getting 100 views, then that means that you're talking in front of more people than most people would ever speak in front of, you know? So so start getting obviously and then just being consistent, and by doing that you should be on your way. But that's a long way of saying that the Mr. Beast saying, which is make 100 videos.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? Just start. That's basically what it is. And I think you also mentioned Still Like an Artist, which is a great book, right? And I think I'm going to recommend that to other people because that's exactly what you should be doing. No one created anything from scratch. You're essentially stealing it and making it yourself, which is why I think that whole steal my trend came, which I don't like, but you are trying to take inspiration from other people, right? And yeah, I think just get out there and do it. Because I put off this podcast for 2 years because I was so worried about making it look great. And, you naturally compare yourself to like the DOAC and you think you've got to look as perfect as that. But I don't have a Stephen Bartlett's crew and the budget to be able to develop these videos. So I think just doing it yourself. And like I said, I love these conversations. I love doing this. So it doesn't feel like a chore. But I totally resonate with what you said about how, if you're running your business, this is a distraction from the business. And like, I'm about to start the YouTube channel and I still feel like I keep putting that off as well. Because I'm like, well, it's not going to make me money. It's taking time away from my business. Like, how do you justify that? And it's like, so if people are there now wanting to create content, and I think the biggest excuse that everyone has, and I say the word excuse very lightly, the biggest reason everyone has is that they don't have time, or that they feel like they don't know what they're doing. Like, so just do it. But time, how much time should we be dedicating? If you're, say, running an agency or running a business, or you've got a full-time job, what is realistically, like, don't be like, oh, you can spend a couple of hours a week. Is that worth it?
That would be a lie. It just depends on your format though, because for me, because I have a storytelling format and I actually want, like, every word that I say, I actually want it to kind of be of value. It takes me a lot longer to make content, and I don't push out content to that much volume. But then there's other people who have like more podcast formats, which they can record 1 hour and they got content for a month, So it just really depends on the format. For me, some of my videos take like 8 hours, like to make that, but like that, it kind of works for me just because like I know that my videos or my content, they stand like the test of time. So like what I'll do is I'll like make some videos or make a video, and like for weeks it gets reshared, and like people reshare my videos on their story. Like people drop me messages and say like thank you, like that was inspiring, stuff like that. So for me, even if I get one message for the 8 hours of work, I know that I spent 8 hours changing someone's life. You know what I mean? So it's completely fine for me. And also because of the type of content I make, I think that people would understand that it wouldn't be massive volume. In terms of if I was doing it every day, I think it would saturate the message.
Devalue it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely that's just me. But that's why I say, like, if you run a business, then you should try and have it aligned with like either a hobby or your business, because it's like even if you have a business, at times you're gonna be away from it and doing something else, and It's like, if you play golf on the weekends and you're making content about golf, then it's like, it's not bad. You should do it. You're just recording. You know what I mean? So it's like, and that's another thing that I've learned recently, is that I actually split up my activities now to like, all right, I'm going to do this activity for like with content in mind, and then I'm going to do this activity and I'm not recording. So I actually make it hot and cold, because I've been on trips recently where it's like, it was like the people have expected me to just be chilling, but I'm making content, and it kind of ruins the experience and it ruins the content, because what actually happens is that you can't capture everything how you want to. But then when it's like actually a trip where I'm focused on just getting content, you get the best, because you know you're around other people who are expecting that. And it's like, when you're on camera all the time and stuff, but like you get like a lot. So I think split your time in terms of with the activity that you're capturing.
And I think that's so important, other people knowing what to expect. And that's just the same with everything, right? It's just providing expectations. Like I was saying earlier, like, would you enjoy it if you're just doing content? But like I said, if you're going on a content creation trip, then everyone around you knows that, and they're all geared up for it, and they're all going to help each other. I think that's incredible. And then just having times when you're not doing it. I mean, would you recommend that? Like, I think, again, like I was saying, that I find it difficult to create content by myself because it is overwhelming. Like, would you recommend content creators going to do stuff together, meeting up and helping each other?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lack of that in the UK, which makes the content in the UK, I feel, lagged a lot from where it could be, because I think that there's the actual audience in the UK isn't actually, there's not that much innovation with the type of content that they get on short form, you know. But in America, if you go to like the For You pages in New York and go to like LA, you see brand new concepts like all the time. Like in terms of like concepts, like in the UK, who's the guy who did Trainspotting?
Yoke Network. I mean the big guy produced it.
No, you know, there was a creator who was like Francis.
Oh, the guy with the guy who's actually now a Gucci model. The guy that yeah.
So like, think about how many times in the UK, like a year, that
someone like him comes around.
Like,
yeah,
completely different. And then there was obviously the girl who was like doing the train. She was doing the trend where she was like making TikToks on the underground. I don't know if
I don't think I saw her. No.
Yeah, she kind of blew up, but then even within that, it's like there isn't like sustainability. So it's like, how does she evolve that? You know, really, I haven't watched her I haven't seen her on TikTok for a while, but really, what she should then do is go to New York and do it on the subway there. Go on a metro. Go on a plane. You know what I mean? Like scale out that content, or even then start to like do like, because the reason why people liked her wasn't that she was just making, it was because obviously she was making content on the underground, but it's that the fact that they liked her was because she had more higher than average confidence within herself. So basically, to scale her concept is to do things with higher than average confidence within herself. You know, like go and speak to the England manager and like bust in, you know what I mean? Like go in and like, you know what I mean?
I'd quite like to do that right now and have a word with Sakara Southgate.
Exactly. But it's like doing stuff that, or like she goes to like, just kind of, she's more of someone who you're going to look up to and say, wow, like I wish I had her confidence. And that's why everyone like loved her content. Francis, the Trainspotting guy, I can't pronounce his name. The reason why they loved him is because he was so like obsessed about trains, and it was just such a simple thing that he was obsessed about. So like he could then go on and talk about engineering and stuff. But this is not the way that people think about content in the UK. They think about this more in America.
I think he also was respected because he was just being himself. Like, I think that, like you said earlier, don't give a fuck what anyone thinks. I think he didn't. I think he showed up as his bit dorky, goofy self and was like, screw it if I love trains. Screw it if I'm going to have this weird like GoPro thing on my head and just be like, and just love life about it. I think people kind of respected that because they can't do that. Most people don't have the confidence. You said about this insane confidence this girl has. I think most people don't have the confidence to truly be who they want to be. And I think that most people are holding back and are too ashamed to do that. And he's just there ultimate freedom of just being himself and being a bit of a goof on camera, but just loving life. And I think that there's something liberating in that most people can't do.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think I kind of missed that part of my like analysis of him, but I 100% agree. Like, just that's why I say like do things that you actually care about, because then it's so authentic, and then you can capture it from like your own perspective. And like most people don't realize, but their greatest barrier to entry and their greatest value is that it's them, like unique. They are themselves, you know? No one's got your life experiences. No one's grown up the way that you have. No one's had the worst experience that you had. No one's had the best experience that you had. So by creating a story around that, makes you unique and makes people actually say, oh, you'll find your tribe. Like there's how many people, I think even in Facebook and WhatsApp, and Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram alone, there's like 3 billion monthly active users, I think, something like that.
Crazy.
So if you think about that, even if it's 20,000 people across the world that fight, that are very similar to you, that's your tribe, that's your audience. I have a WhatsApp community that has like 2,000 people in it. And then I got now a waiting list basically of like 2,000, over 2,000 people. And then for the adventure, we got these adventure hikes, and then we got these open hikes, which are we call mini hikes. So I productize like the hikes. But then the ones where we're going to like the Jurassic Coast, and then we're going to go to Snowdon, people are going to have to pay anyway. They're going to have to like basically like get hotels. So I basically got packages for people, but I know the cost price, but I don't know people's price sensitivity.
Well, I just think like people would pay to go in a community. Like I think people want to do those sort of things. They will pay anything to go with other people, because there might not be other people in their friendship groups who want to do that sort of thing. So, and if you're getting that networking, you're getting that genuinely like-minded things. I think most of the time you spend ages trying to get your friends to go, you can never boil it down to like a date. So I think charge what you want to charge. Like also they get access to you, man. They'll pay premium for that.
I know, but I wanted to see people's price sensitivity. So, because obviously I think in America and the UK, its value is different. So people like, they will, even the higher you charge it, probably the more people are like in demand for it. But here, the price sensitivity is different.
Very different.
So that's why I was like, all right, cool. Let me do a blind auction, and then I'll see what people, but I'll have a base price, because I know that obviously the cost. But I've asked a few people, and I know like how much. So that's like obviously that's gonna just be like it's still like my side hustle, like, with content. It's like, but I have big plans for it to build a big business from like just my actual socials itself.
That's really cool. We'll definitely talk about that at some point. But I want to talk about how, you know, you can understand your audience more, because, you know, we're talking about creating all this content, and like you said, you might not have many followers, but say even if you do then get followers, how do you know who you're really speaking to? And like, of course, there's lots of data out there. And I think that people forget the biggest plus about digital marketing is the access to analytics. And I think, like, you know, you stick a billboard out, how do you know who responds to it? But you put posts out on social media, you know exactly who's responding to it. You know who they are, where they're from, like age range and what they like, everything about them. But people aren't using that data properly. What would you recommend to other people? How can people use data to actually, you know, do well?
So in terms of myself, I religiously, since the beginning of me making content, I've religiously looked at the watch time, the analytics, like the actual profiles of the people that follow me, and then I started to build up a mailing list from like months ago. So I actually see their names, and there's like onboarding questions, so I actually look at that. But then coupled with like AI, what I started to do was I started to like download reports of the engagement on my performance and data, and then I started to realize like, okay, cool. These are like my avatars in terms of like the people who I speak to. These are what their interests are. These are the type of posts that work. So then what I then did was we already have like tech internally. So the team, what we started to do is we build out a tool, and then now we're actually gonna just launch it. So it's called Shroomy, Shroomy.ai.
Shroomy?
Yeah. The reason
What
why,
is his name?
because like when people are trying to get creativity, they usually
Go to shrooms.
go on shrooms, yeah. So it's like your AI trip, yeah.
Oh my God, that is so good. I love it. Do you know what? That's so appropriate for someone who runs a business called Knobs. So I think like it's like, come hang out with the Knobs and take some shrooms.
Yeah, so it's like it's literally Shuri.ai. So it's like
Love that.
you can go on a trip. And what it does is it analyzes your social media profile. So it looks at your engagement, your comments, your best performing post, and it watches the videos, and then it actually gives you like bi-weekly reports or weekly reports on like what works well. So it's so super relevant because it will look at the hooks, it will look at the body of the content, it will look at like even take into consideration like kind of your competitors as well. It does competitor analysis as well. And it literally just come in like an email. So like instead of having to hire a consultant, like anyone can like for like a little monthly fee, super affordable monthly fee, anyone can like have deep insights into their content and actual actionable ways to improve.
So how does this compare to sort of the analytics that's already out there? So like every platform has a built-in analytics that people don't look at, but you know, and every like social media management tool, whether it's like Hootsuite, Buffer, all that sort of stuff, have their own analytics. How does Shroomy compare to those?
Because those are looking at analytics in terms of like, it doesn't actually take into consideration as much what the video actually is, how the video is structured. So that will look at like, yeah, your posters, this engagement, people are talking about this, but it won't tell you how to execute, you know, because like with videos, like what you have to do is you look at the hook, you look at the body, you look at like the call to action, you also look at like how to optimize. You can get suggestions in terms of like keywords, in terms of like, oh yeah, you can use this keyword in your hook to understand how to make content. Like there's so many different variables or factors of content creation, like even sound, like lighting, like there's so much. So for me, because I know I'm an expert at making content and I have done this to grow like a core audience in terms of, I actually, like now across TikTok and Instagram, I got like over 120,000 people. And for me, this is like me not even doing it like full time. Like if I was to double down on it, like I know how to like, kind of growth hack it. So, but I have formulas in the background in terms of like, I know what type of video resonates with what type of audience. And I understand like what type of video will get more reach. I understand what keywords to say in the hook. I understand all of that just through years of working, and then coupled with like AI and like the data that you actually have available on these platforms. And obviously when you're building a mailing list and understanding people's interests and why they're resonating with you, and have we got like now we're migrating it from WhatsApp community to Telegram, because we hit 2,000 people in the WhatsApp community.
Yeah, damn.
And WhatsApp has a capacity of 2,000. So I was like, fuck, like the only platform that we can really host for my audience is Telegram. I did a poll, I checked out, and I looked and I saw that Discord was obviously an option, but the adoption rate of Discord is way lower for my audience. So there's no point. Yeah. But you know, you can make these decisions because I'm making this decision because I understand. Yeah. You know what I mean?
People aren't asking the people who they're actually talking to. I think that's a really key point. Like people make decisions unilaterally. That's how you say it, right? Unilaterally, as a business owner, and they don't actually think about who they're talking to. At the end of the day, it's all down to the members. If you suddenly will move to Discord, which is more of a gaming community, I think, like people don't like it. And every time I get invited to a Discord channel, I just can't be bothered to go on it. It's not the same. So.
And also, it's like people don't use Discord as much on their mobile.
Yes, exactly.
Well.
It's a desktop. Like...
So what I actually did is that I did 3 polls. I did one on my community page, one on my main Instagram, and then I actually sent a form in to the WhatsApp community and to get different data points. Because obviously if I was just to do it on my story, then people who aren't even in the community would vote.
Yeah.
Then if I did it in the community, then on the Instagram, you still may get people who aren't as engaged.
Yeah.
So, and then the form, I asked them the reasons like why this platform as well. So then basically what ended up happening was that 50-50 wanted. No, actually, Discord won on my main Instagram, 51 to 49%.
Okay.
Then on our community Instagram, Telegram won. Like it was like 75 to 25. Then in the actual community itself, Telegram won by like for every one Discord vote there was 2 Telegram. But then when I was looking at who voted, I was actually looking at the profile of the audience, and then I was like, okay, this type of person wants Telegram, this type of person wants Discord. But I felt as though by picking Telegram, it would still convert those that wanted Discord because of the profile, their type of profile.
It's so interesting how much detail you go into the analytics of the data, because I think, like I said, I think that's what people are failing at. No one's looking. Like, how many people actually know exactly who their audience are and their profiles? Like I said, you know probably what they do for jobs, like what their interests are, like whether they have pets, whether they're married, like, you know, people don't even know this stuff. And I think it's actually relevant.
Yeah, it is relevant. And the craziest thing is that it's important mainly because you can actually use it to provide way more value for them. So like we do hikes and events and stuff as well. So like our last hike had over 120 people come down and hike, which for especially people from like my background and like culture, that's like a lot of people, you know. But it's only just a start as well. But it's still good. But I understand who came, you know, and why they came. And when I'm there, I'm speaking to them. And I think I look at being a content creator the way that I look at music artists, because if you're actually going to be a music artist, the only way that you can like sell out like the O2 or Madison Square Garden is by doing smaller shows and building up, because you actually build connections with people and it's actually real. So even for me, I look at like even the community stuff is a great way to meet people and everyone to kind of be aligned or run under one message. But then I also actually look at it like, here, these are like my small like gigs. And then ultimately, if I was to then have a festival in 2 years and we've done like hundreds of community meetups, you can get 10,000 people to buy tickets in, and that is actually of value. And if like, because the hardest thing that brands can't do is get someone off their ass out their house to come to work. So if you could do that, then that's the most powerful use of your platform. I've seen so many people make shit content, do crazy things, and I'm like, I'll achieve crazy things within the industry, and it's not that it's any disrespect to them, but it's, I know that if I was to execute it, then I think I can actually do something that will be more value to society.
I love that. You mentioned video locks. Obviously, I think you create a lot of video content, but is Shroomy only going to be available for video content at the moment?
Yeah, initially it will be for video.
Do you think that's the way things are going? Like, I know that video can be intimidating because it's a higher barrier to entry, I think, with a video. But do you think that's where the future lies?
I think content's cyclical. Like, so I think in the short term and medium term, yeah, short form content is, but ultimately different platforms tailor to different types of people. Like I even realized that even my TikTok algorithm, the way that it works is that it serves different types of content to parts of your audience. So I did like a carousel, I called them swipes, but like a carousel post, and then one of the comments was like, oh, I haven't seen you since you were on Everest, which was like 6 or 7 months ago when I was posting it. But while I was doing that, that's when I was doing a lot of carousel content. So I realized, I was like, and then even if you think about like when you consume content, like a lot of people watch YouTube when they're sitting down having their lunch, or if it's a Friday night, it's less likely you might watch YouTube, you might watch Netflix.
Yeah.
But then if you're during the day on a commute, you might scroll on Instagram or TikTok. Or if you're in bed, you might just be scrolling on TikTok. So it's like, there's actually different content formats for different times of your life and day. So that's why I believe that it just depends on the type of content that you're making. But every piece of content has a place, because like there's platforms like Pinterest, which is like inspo, but those type of creators are still on Instagram doing like photos, and it's performing really well, you know.
How do you decide which platform? Because I feel like there's so many, and it can be really overwhelming as a content creator. And of course, there's lots of advice out there saying create one piece of content and repurpose it across all the channels. But like you said, different pieces of content do well on certain platforms, and it may not look right. And if there's people who follow you in different platforms, they might get sick of the same stuff. How would you recommend people work out what platforms they should be on?
Well, firstly, think about the platform that you consume the most yourself, and then see how you would kind of execute there. Because I consumed a lot of TikTok, and I knew I was like pretty good on TikTok. I'd say I was like an expert, you know, because we even had like a meeting with the ByteDance CEO.
Nice.
My business partner. Like TikTok called us in. So that's why I was like, if I'm learning from him, if he's asking me questions, then I must have something of value, you know? So for me specifically, that's why I focus on TikTok, because I felt like I had an advantage on it. If I was to start from zero, I would test TikTok first, because the way the algorithm works is that it's about the specific content and that gets pushed. Then Instagram Reels has been very easy to grow. So now that I've actually even thought about it, to evolve my argument, to evolve my advice, it would be think about what format the platform is pushing, and then if your goal is to grow as a creator, make content and get good at that, you know?
Yeah, amazing. And I think the Shroomy platform sounds really good, and I think I'm definitely going to sign up to it. So where can people sign up to Shroomy?
So we actually haven't launched a web. So our website is shroomy.ai.
Yeah.
You can sign up at shroomy.ai, and initially it's only going to be about $25 a month.
Nice. But by the time this podcast airs, it might be out, right?
Yeah, it will be out. So you'll be able to sign up. We're in beta, and then you can obviously sign up and analyze your content. And then just if you want to speak to me, my name's Jidé, and on social media it's Saint Jids, SAINT JIDZ, on TikTok and Instagram. And yeah, I'm gonna start YouTube soon, because I've got a lot of adventures to share.
I'm excited, and I'll pop all the links in the show notes so people can hit you up. And I know that you actually do respond to your community, which is amazing, and they love that. Yeah, I mean, you're just always on your phone and just trying to respond to people, and that's so nice, because I think that people see someone real at the end of it, and I think people would really value your input. So I'll make sure people get those links, and I can't wait to try Shroomy. I can't wait to subscribe to YouTube, and we'll see what it is. But thanks so much for being here today.
No, thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yay!